Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fukit Podcast. We're so excited to be with you again, and we love these recordings. We love hearing from you. We love what we're creating together. We're getting so many beautiful responses for the episode we recorded, and we just wanted to say that we appreciate it so much, and we don't take it for granted that you take the time and are with us.
Yes, it's beautiful, and this is one of the big reasons we're doing it, to create some type of community around these discussions and openness around taboo topics.
Yeah, so if you liked our podcast, it would be really helpful if you could go to Apple Podcast and Spotify and rate it and leave us a review. That really helps us spread the podcast and reach out to more people. And if you think that someone needs to listen to this episode, please share it. That's really helpful.
Yes, thank you guys.
So we were thinking that today we will talk more deeply about our relationship, and to be more precise, about our open relationship, our non-monogamous, whatever you want to call it. Because I think we laid a foundation, and if you haven't listened to the first episode about it, which is called The Truth About Our Relationship, where we firstly exposed it and talked about the fear of exposing it, now we want to go deeper and share more details about our relationship and about our lifestyle. And again, the invitation here is to come with an open mind. There's nothing that we're saying here that is trying to impose a certain perspective. We're just sharing our experience, and it's really beneficial to come with this openness.
Yes, I agree very much. And then the question is, where do we begin? Where did it all start before even going into where we are today, right? How did it start for you? What was the first seed?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it before we started the recording, the question that you brought is how from a monogamous relationship, we were together for 8 years already, living the mainstream life of just, two people who met in their early 20s that got together, moved in, we built a relationship, we got married, and then something happens and these things pop up. I think this is how to describe how the first seed started.
But what popped up for you?
I think that in the root, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but it was the part of me that felt like I'm scared to even admit it, that I'm attracted to other men, and that, yes, in my fantasy, it would have been amazing if I could still have the possibility to explore my sexuality. And I think that's something that scared me so much, because it was I'm in this loving relationship, I love you, and just the thought of it is freaking me out completely. The thought that I'm having these thoughts was making me feel like I'm doing something wrong. And that was the beginning. So I think that the beginning was a seed of attraction to other men, and then another thought of saying no, this is impossible. I didn't know at the time anyone who's living this lifestyle. For me, polyamory was something I saw on documentaries, and I was seeing it, and I remember my whole body reacting to it, oh my God, what are they doing? What are they even talking about? So for me, that was my first connection to this kind of lifestyle, and I denied it. So I didn't share about it. And, being together with you from such a young age, it was kind of making me sad that I didn't get a chance to explore more my sexuality. And I think also the fact that our sexuality was not at her highest potential. So it was like, yeah, something was missing. A lot of the time people ask me like, was there anything missing? So I think this element was missing, and it made me sad thinking that I can't explore and I can't check other ways of exploring my sexuality.
So just on that, you're saying what was missing for you was the fact that you couldn't explore with other men because you were in a closed monogamous relationship? But was there something specifically missing for you within the relationship, from me, from our dynamics?
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, we were a great couple, and we still are. So it wasn't like I was walking around thinking like something is deeply missing in my relationship. But there is another side of me, the adventurous, the one that likes new connections, that likes to explore. That part of me was completely denied, and it had no permission to be part of my life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very important point when talking about this topic, because I also get this question often. Was something missing for you? You know, what was missing for you? And obviously there's always going to be something missing within a relationship between two people, because we cannot provide everything for one another. Now, that doesn't mean that you must go outside and look for it outside, but at the same time, it's a choice. It's just like with friends, right? Some things I cannot fulfill for you, and you go to your girlfriends because they are women and they'll understand other things that I am not understanding, or they'll give you a type of compassion that maybe I cannot give you. So I think it's an important question to understand, but sometimes I think it comes as like almost blaming and like, okay, let's get to the root of it. Something was missing for you, that's why you opened. If only you would fulfill that within your relationship, you wouldn't have to open. And that's not necessarily the case.
Yes, but I would also add that it's true. I think that some things are missing in any relationship, and the answer is not always to open the relationship with something is missing, and there is an opportunity to go within and understand what is missing, and working on our sexuality, for example, and talking more about what's not working there. Like, it can't be an escape to what's really going on inside the relationship. And I think for me that was really important from the beginning, to kind of understand what is happening inside our relationship and not run to kind of like a quick fix solution that might, yes, it might give me permission to explore, but I'm actually not addressing the real issue, which was our sexuality, that I wasn't fully fulfilled there, and I wasn't able to express myself around it, and I was feeling shameful and fearful to bring it up. So I feel like it comes together.
Yeah, it's complex. It's definitely complex, but I'm saying even if you work on the relationship, on the sexuality, on everything, I don't believe that there will be a point where you feel 100% fulfilled within a relationship. Like that all the missing parts are there. You can come to a place where you feel, I mean, maybe the word isn't fulfilled. You can feel fulfilled, but not everything can be given from one person.
That's true. And it's a choice again.
Exactly.
I think that is the element that is most important to highlight in any decision we make in life. Like, we make a choice of how we decide to look at things and to accept what we see in front of us or change it. So yes, our relationship cannot give us everything, but like, am I happy with what I have? Can I accept what I have? Or is it something in my core that really wants something else? And then it's okay to also change it. It's like, yeah, like you said, no one will have a perfect relationship, but we make the choice to love what we have.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the beginning, do you feel that when we started talking about it and when we opened, where were we? I mean, things were missing, but were we in a good enough place to open? And in your eyes?
No, I think it would be also like, it's not a one-way interview. I want to also hear you before we jump into that. What was, like, you asked me what was happening on my side until that point. So what was happening on your side?
Back then, at the beginning?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say because like thinking back, I feel like it's all a big mush blob of like things that we spoke about, but working so many hours a day, Tel Aviv, no time, rarely time for the relationship. I remember coming home so tired, and yes, we would do like a date once a week or twice or once every 2 weeks, but mostly we would just kind of dump ourselves on the couch and watch some Netflix and then go to sleep. Sexuality at the time, I don't think we had much sexuality at the time. Also, I was suffering with my whole skin and everything, so it was not like a fun time and a time to be so intimate and close with touch. And I think yeah, sometimes you need to experience something to realize that something is missing. So the first time that I was in a bar and this girl was sitting in front of me and we had this flirt, and I felt these butterflies in my stomach and this attraction, and I was like, whoa, I haven't felt this in a really long time. This is missing for me. So I wasn't aware that it was missing for me until it happened. Mm-hmm. And then once it happened, I was like, I want more of this. I want to feel this excitement. I don't know what I want to do with this, but I want that feeling in my stomach. I want this feeling of aliveness. And it kind of was like a slap in the face of like, you're on this train track that's just kind of going nowhere. And I've kind of felt numb to life, and something in that was like, mm-hmm. And then a few weeks later, right? Did we share what happened with this? I don't know. So I won't go much into detail, but we exchanged LinkedIn because I said I would help her with a job, finding a job or something. So I didn't feel any guilt about, because I didn't give my Instagram or WhatsApp. And then she wrote to me. She was like, I'm working in a gallery in Jaffa, and come visit me. And she had told me also that she's in a relationship. She was from Latvia and she was in a relationship with an Israeli man. So this was also confusing for me. I was like, why is she's hitting on me, but she's in a relationship? And she didn't say she's in an open relationship. And then you went to a workshop a few weeks later, and she was like, come visit me on Saturday. And I was going crazy, and I tried calling your friend to tell her what I'm about to do, and I wanted her to tell me not to do it. And she didn't answer, and I got on my scooter and I started driving towards the gallery. And I got to the gallery and I couldn't allow myself to go in. Like, she had no idea I was there. And I turned around and went away, and then I felt like, whoa, that scared me. And when you came back, I shared this with you.
And what scared you? Like, what were your fears?
What scared me was I had such a strong impulse, and I wasn't thinking straight, and I don't know, but I almost brought myself to a point where if I would have entered the gallery, maybe I would have cheated, because the attraction was so strong, and this scared me. It scared me that I never believed that I was someone who would go behind your back and do something, and I never thought in this way, and so it scared me.
Yeah. And I think on that I can really relate to you. When I was attracted to someone when I was traveling alone, that was kind of the first time I experienced this like edge of, I know I love you, I know in my heart that I want to be with you, and how come that I'm having these thoughts? It was really scary that I was literally like considering doing something about it.
It's exactly that, because we never spoke about it. Maybe it scared me that suddenly, like, I had flirted with friends and stuff, but never something that I thought I would act on, or, because I was flirty in school or stuff like that. But this was the first time where it was like, whoa, someone is hitting on me and something can happen. And it's like, if I cross this bridge, there's no going back.
Yeah.
Because either I will have to live with the guilt, or I share it with you and this could end a relationship, or it will change it and it will be very hurtful, and I love you and I don't want you to hurt, but I realize that I have this impulse in me, or that I don't know if you call it impulse. It's natural libido.
Yeah. And you know, when we tell this story, it makes me think of, imagine if already back then we had people in our lives that will make us feel normal about it. Because I think that's the thing that causes so much drama. When we have these things that happen to us, we don't live in a isolated bubble. We work with people, we network, we go to events, like these excitements are around us, and yes, some people may like avoid it 100%, but some people that like they still have the desire to have this kind of excitement and aliveness that we never learn that it's possible to experience just the excitement, even if you're not going to change anything about your life. Like, I wish I had someone at the time, or me from the future, that will say, you know what you're feeling right now is great, let's celebrate it, it's normal, and it doesn't jeopardize your relationship feeling these feelings. It was like, for me, it was like, this kind of behavior is risking everything.
I think that's exactly that, and it's in many things in life, right? That we have even discussions we were having about a totally different topic this week, about expressing our fears around a certain topic. So we're afraid to express certain things because then that will make it real. But it's real. It's real that I have attraction to someone. So if I confess that to you, or if I bring that confession, like it's such a strong word, but I just bring that up naturally, then there's a fear from your side that if we talk about it, then now it's going to become real and now I'm going to want it. But I do want it. It's inside me, it's within me, and then there can be, because it's repressed, there could be a lot of suffering, there could be cheating, there can be breakups, there can be many things. And if it is, and speaking about it, it might not be easy. Maybe there needs to be a third person in the room, a professional who's allowing this who's helping this conversation to be. But it's very important, I think, to get it out.
Yeah, and I think that is another thing that we need to learn in a relationship, to create safety for emotions, to create safety for the ability to share what's really going on with us. Because yes, some would say, and sometimes I would also say, like, we don't need to share everything. Not every thought we have that crosses our mind is relevant, because we also can't be naive, and we have to be honest and say, when in a monogamous relationship, a person comes in and say, I met this girl at the bar, it made me think of, I want to connect with her, it made me think I have this desire, it shakes the entire system. And we can't ignore it. We can't be like lied about it and say like, hey, you know, like it's nothing. It's huge for many, many people. And I could say for myself that despite everything I shared, it was like a big explosion for me to hold your feelings. And if there's not a culture in the relationship of safety, that it's safe to share what's going on with us, then it can be very explosive.
Exactly, because this was obviously underlying for both of us, and it actually started with you a few years before that, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I think if there was that culture of sharing, or if it was just okay, if we both knew and agreed and had known, like you said, maybe other people around us would normalize it, and we knew that it's okay to have these emotions and attractions to other people even though we're not planning on acting on it, then if I share about someone specific, it's not that alarming. But the thing is that I was silent for 8 years, and suddenly I come with something like this, then it's like, whoa, now there's something special with this woman. But it's not like I'm in love with her, I want to live with her. It's just, this is something that sparked this.
Yeah.
And
what it sparked is like the fear of, what does it mean about our relationship? Yeah. What does it mean about our future? What does it mean about our life? Like suddenly this little thing was creating like a huge, I don't know how to call it.
It did end up bringing us to where we are, right?
Yeah.
It did because we chose to. We could have chosen not to at the same extent. But just admitting it is not what caused this. It was that we both had these desires within us, and these situations kind of shined a light onto these desires. And then over time and a lot of arguments and fighting, we came to a conscious decision that this is the type of lifestyle we want to explore.
Yeah.
At the same time, we could have gone the other way and said, okay, this is beautiful, this is great, but we don't want to engage.
Yeah. And here I want to add another element that, looking back, I can take back to the situation and give a tool. So this is maybe for anyone who is experiencing this. It's like when this happens, when we share something that is kind of out of the norm of what we usually talk about. So what does it mean, safety? It means I can bring something in, and then I can feel what I feel in the moment, and then we recognize what is the actual need. So if you're sharing right now that you're attracted to another woman, suddenly I can feel like the fear of like, I'm not good enough, I'm gonna be all alone, you're gonna leave me, like all these fears started to come. And what if we can just hold them together and be like, okay, I hear that you're feeling all of this, and let's go within and understand like why this thing is triggering you so much, and feel it and do the self-work of what's happening to me when this information comes, and not just reject it. Yeah. Because we don't want to feel the pain, so we just want to like say no, I don't want to hear about it, and this was me back then, don't want to hear about it, this is horrible. And I didn't have the tools to understand deeply what it means about me. What do I need in the moment? And maybe I need in the moment that you'll reassure me that you're not going anywhere, even though you did that. But it was still like, can we facilitate the truth of what is lying behind this huge trigger?
Yeah. I think specifically in our case, and I'm sure it happens in many cases, it was sitting on a very deep wound of yours, which we both have, but of abandonment. Mm-hmm. So there was also a lot of, I don't know what to call it, but like irrational and extra layers of added layers of intense emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what brings into this vicious cycle, right? Because when we're not addressing those underlying emotions and giving them the safety or the security that they need, and the love and the compassion, then you are triggered. You're in a state of alarm, and this reflects back on me as invalidation to what I'm feeling. Like I'm saying, hey, I'm not planning on leaving you. I'm actually bringing this to you because I love you. I could have hidden it like many others and cheated, but I don't, because I love you. But when you're saying this, then I feel that my desires are something to be shamed of, or something wrong, and then I just shut down or attack back, and then you feel even less secure. And so it really is important. But I think it is important because I'm bringing this, and now because of that it's raising your fears. Then it is my responsibility to hold space for your fears and be with them, first to calm the system down, give you the safety, before I am asking from you for validation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's relevant, I think, for any kind of argument, right? Argument,
mm-hmm.
discussion.
So I want to go back to that story. And so what happened was I felt this like fear, and you came back from the workshop, and I said, hey, I need to share something with you. And I shared with you what happened, and I was sure you were going to get upset or who knows what, leave me, and then you said, wow, that's really courageous of you. And I said, what do you mean? And then you shared with me that a few years ago you had a very strong attraction to someone at work with you, and I had no idea about this. You said you had not shared with me because you were afraid of my reaction.
Yeah.
And I asked if something happened, and you said nothing happened. But it was frightening. It was very frightening to me because the fact that I didn't know about it. And when I asked you some more questions, I understood that he didn't engage with you, and that maybe if he had asked you out on a date, you would have agreed to that, and then things could have led to another. And so a few things happened in that moment. One, I realized, whoa, I really want us to be more open about these things, and not to, because I saw also how much pain it caused you, that you weren't sharing with me, and also just kind of, I know what it's like when you have a desire and you're not sharing it. Like there's a form of suffering and feeling shameful about it, and And two, I realized, oh, she also has this desire. It's not just within me, so there's something to work with.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, I was at a workshop and I did an exercise with a woman, and we both felt that we fell in love within like a few days. And this was another huge thing, adding to those butterflies, adding to that. It was like, wow, I want to feel this. And it was very confusing to me because I knew I loved you with my whole heart and I want to live the rest of my life with you. But I also have love for this other woman. What does this mean? It was so confusing, but it was like exiting a certain matrix or opening a window that was like seeing a whole other reality that I was never able to see before. And I saw that these two feelings of love were not contradicting for me. And I wanted to explore this. And when I brought this to you, you were sure that I was going to leave you because we were still in this mindset that it's either or.
Yeah, and I think that's the core thought. It's the thought that it's not possible. It's not possible to have both. You need to choose. You want to be with me or you want to be with someone else. The idea that we can have both, like my mind couldn't grasp it. It was really unreal for me to think that it would be possible to do that in any capacity. And then the entire defense mechanism kicks in, and it becomes like this huge explosion and fear. And yeah, I was so scared back then, and I couldn't, because for me it felt like the end. It felt like we can't find a solution to this. And once you've said that this is your desire, I felt like I need to fight back and fight for our relationship and save it. And at the same time, a part of me was frightened that I'm not going to be able to. So this was kind of how it started.
So I'm thinking of, we can take this in so many directions, but I'm kind of thinking of maybe bringing some, we spoke about some of them, but some tips for couples that suddenly something like this comes up for one or both of them, and some tips for navigating that we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
I want to start with...
It goes for couples, but not only for couples. It's like now that it's becoming a bit more common, or it's more in the conversation. So also when you meet someone that expresses their desire to be open, so it's kind of like being curious about it and curious about how we feel about it before we say a definite no. It's like checking in with our boundaries, like where are they coming from and what can we contain, let's call it, and what is too much for us, kind of like exploring that. And I say it also knowing that I've been through a lot with my boundaries, because I had certain boundaries that I thought that they wouldn't change, and it took me a few years to be more flexible about them. But I think it's just putting a question mark about, is this not possible? Or is there a possibility to have something else if the right circumstances and what we talked about would be there, you know, the safety, the softness, the exploration that comes with more gradual actions.
Yeah. And some that I'm thinking of, first of all, I want to normalize, like we said, but I want to say again that it is normal. There is nothing wrong with the relationship necessarily. There could be many things wrong with the relationship, but just the fact that one or both of you are having attraction, thoughts, desires towards other people, this is normal. This is part of your DNA as humans. We do not become suddenly monogamous beings when we enter a monogamous relationship. We choose to, but our mind, and we see beautiful people, and this can cause things. We don't have to act on that, but it is
Right.
normal, and it is very important, and nothing is wrong with you. Number two is validating one another, even if it's bringing up your biggest fear, understanding that the other person within the relationship, whatever it is that is coming up for them, it is valid, as long as they are acting within the set of rules and guidelines that your relationship has until then, and you're not crossing any boundaries, then just allowing space for that. And like we said, it validating the other person. Just because your fear seems bigger than the others, it doesn't mean that their feelings, emotions, desires are invalid.
And I think it's important to highlight that validating doesn't mean that you agree. It doesn't mean that it takes away from how you feel about it.
Very important point.
Because I think that I had the fear to validate how you feel, because then it means that I give permission to something that I don't want. And you felt that you're not validated.
And I also felt that if I validate your fears, then I'm never going to be able to experience or explore what I want. And it's like you said, yeah, it's not necessarily agreeing, but that's the thing with compassion. I don't have to agree with you, but I can see where you're coming from, and that whatever you are feeling is valid.
Yeah, and it's really hard to tap into that sometimes, because we feel what we feel. So how can we now step out of what we feel and validate the other?
Yeah. So, and another thing is something that we're told many times, and I think I agree with it, because otherwise there's just too much chaos, but that you go at the pace of the slower one. So if someone is more fearful, you slow the for instance, for us, I was the one at the beginning holding the torch, like, let's open, let's go, and you were not ready, you were in fear. I had to slow down and go to your pace, because if I would push too fast, it would just break and be chaotic. But I want to add something to that, and that is, if I'm slowing down for you, what can you give me? Like, there's this sense, I think, that was kind of overlying, not being said fully, was that I'm the bad person, in a sense, without saying. Like, just the fact that you have a desire, you want to be with others, something is wrong, you are bad, and you need to come and console me and be there for me, and da-da-da. And no, I want to say I wasn't bad. I was abiding by our rules, by our guidelines, and I just had these desires, and yes, I was being courageous bringing that. And at the same time, I want to feel like, okay, so I can't go and be with others, I can't interact. What can you allow within the relationship? What are you okay, even though it might be a bit edgy? Can I go and to an ecstatic dance? Can I dance sensually with someone? Can I sit for a coffee without any touch? Can we, like, something that will be... Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, and I think it's something that we learned in our couples therapy, but it was after a long period of time where we were just fighting for our perspective, and we finally hit the point where we need to kind of find a way.
Okay, so but maybe it's taking it even lower, and it's allowing me to express my desire. Just to, like, have a sit down one day when you're calm and your nervous system is calm, and I can just say, like, hey, these are my desires, for it to be okay and for you not to attack them.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be dancing. Maybe I went far and a coffee with someone, right? But something that makes me feel that I'm moving in some sort of step and that I'm getting like, it's okay.
Yeah, and I want to say something about it. It's a side note that can turn into a whole topic, but it's tough to say it, but I'll say it, is that like denying it or fighting it won't make it go away. And when the truth it's brought up to the surface, it's kind of like making more peace with it and making space for it, because this is how you feel. I can fight now against you and be like, why are you saying that? And why are you doing that to us? And like make you the bad guy, like I said. But at the end of the day, this is the reality. My partner has a desire, is bringing that to me. And despite my desire not to have that in my life, it's here. So can I breathe into it and start to be more flexible about it, because I love my partner and I want him to feel part of this relationship as well. So can I start to expand myself in order to have space for him as well? Because I think that for me, I really wanted to make it go away. I really, really hope that if I give you all the right reasons and if I explain to you why it doesn't make sense, that it will go away. And maybe for some it does, but most likely maybe one of the sides just caves in and just makes a decision like it's not safe for me to bring my whole self into this relationship, and maybe it will cause to other things afterwards. So either way, it's going to cause something. So let's embrace it, as hard as it is and as scary as it is, and take it slow, but give it space, because it's there.
Yeah. And again, I think many people have these desires and they make a conscious decision together not to engage, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and that's totally absolutely fine. Okay. And then there isn't suffering. But if I had felt this whole time, once I realized this about myself, that now I have to shut it down and repress or suppress or whatever the word is, I would probably feel a lot of suffering, and I did for a while. Yeah. Until something, and again, I think the discussion was there and open because you also had this desire. You were just more fearful. Like if it was a hell no from you, then I think we would have to make a very hard, tough decision. And it would have been either, okay, we want very different things and we'll go our separate ways, or I would have understood, okay, there's absolutely no way that this is going to happen. Yeah. So I need to give up on this dream. Yeah. It's like if I want to move to New Zealand, but you hate New Zealand. Yeah. So that's also a very important thing to notice kind of early on. Is there something for discussion? And the last thing I wrote is like, what do you actually want? What do I actually want? Like if we would have asked that discussion, I say, okay, let's clear everything, all the fears. What do you want? Do you want to just live with me happily ever after? Or are you curious even a bit to explore with others, and you want to, but only if you feel that? And if you would have asked me, like, do I want to go and leave you for other women and just have orgies all day and da-da-da? Or am I just curious about exploring some touch with someone at this moment? Yeah. If we would have asked these questions, then maybe it would have minimized the amount of stress, and because we both built very different stories in our mind, the worst case scenarios.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really a good one too. It's healthy in general to have this conversation about what do we want, and I'm talking more about like sexual desires, to have a discussion. We don't have to follow everything, but yeah, maybe I want to be in a room full of men and me. Just I want to say fantasy. It out loud, yeah. Or explore with a third person, or all these things, and maybe there's an opportunity for growth and expansion, and more layers than what we thought was possible, because we were trying to organize our life in a certain way, and it was working for some time, and now something else wants to emerge. So can we look into that? Can we give that space? And I do want to say that, and I have to admit it, that it was taking so much energy from our lives. Like, it took so much of my energy. I think it's the thing that I was focused on the most, and it's not for everyone. And I take responsibility looking back that I engaged with it, so I gave it space. I could have just said, no, I don't want this, and I'm out. But there was a part of me that was drawn into it and wanted to be with you and wanted to make it work. So I engaged with it a lot, but there were so many moments along the way where I was like, wow, this is taking too much of my energy and I'm not happy about it. So it's also like, I know for a lot of couples that come to us and speak to us about it, it's really touching the core.
Yes.
It's touching the core, and it can create a lot of movement in yourself, in the relationship. And so it's not like a warning, but it's more like, are you capable of taking responsibility for that?
It's a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'll just add to that yes, it's very true. We chose to engage with it. I think that there are many ways, like we started just giving some tips, and there are many ways to minimize that energy or minimize the suffering, because we had no fucking clue. And we started reading books and exploring and experiencing on our own. I feel and think that this has been and still is the deepest, most spiritual journey. It's the thing that brought me closest to myself, closest to you. I really highly believe in this. I think we could have done it many ways different, and there could have been many tools and many different things that would have helped us communicate better, less suffering, understand each other better, and maybe we could have gotten to where we are today much quicker with a lot less pain. But again, like you said, it's not for everyone. And just like, you know, kids, okay, that's a lot of energy. That's a huge decision to make, but many people make that decision and they go there. And so it's just a matter of, do we engage or not?
Yeah, and on the other flip side, I want to add that the other side of, there is a spectrum. I know a lot of people and couples that are not open, but they are open to cuddle with other people. They are open to engage in a certain intimate way, but they know their boundaries.
Yes.
So it's like starting to build this kind of wider possibility for your life, for what is possible, for all kinds of possibility. It's not like expansion. A yes or no.
Yeah. To expand beyond the boundaries of yours currently, and you take it as far as both of you, or as an individual person that you want to go. And okay, so
so thank you for listening. We open up about something vulnerable, and there's so much more to say. So first of all, we really want to thank you again for being here. And if you have any question or something specific you'd like us to talk about, we would be happy to do that. And
delighted.
Explore more. And another exciting thing is that we're now working on a few new projects that we're so excited about, and we're starting to work with couples and work with people on the relationship. Like Daniel learned like emotional therapy, and I'm doing coaching for women now, which is brand new and exciting, and we can talk about it more in another episode. But just so you know, we're putting it out there that if you want to be guided and you want your support, we're here for you.
Yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming, and see you next episode.
Yes.